call came in at 4:47 a.m. I know because I was staring at my phone anyway. Couldn't sleep. Third night this week. Jessica keeps saying I need to see someone about the insomnia. But it's not insomnia when you're just thinking about work. About the aquifer readings from last month. About how the phosphate levels don't make sense for this time of year. Rick, you there? Tommy's voice sounded wrong. Tommy Breckenridge, my supervisor at Polk County Water Management, never called this early. Never called my cell at all. We had protocols, work phones, the whole system. Yeah, what's wrong? Sinkhole opened up off State Road 60. Big one. Sheriff saying it's maybe 200 feet across. I was already out of bed, pulling on my Dickies work pants. How deep? That's the thing. They can't tell. Fog's coming out of it. Thick stuff. Green looking in the spotlights. Fog doesn't come out of sinkholes. Fog's atmospheric, condensation, temperature differential. I've worked Florida karst geology for 16 years. Since I was 22. Since before Jessica and I got married. Since before Lily was born. You see sinkholes, you see them fill with water, you see them drain the aquifer. You don't see them exhaling. Rick, you coming? Give me 20 minutes. Where exactly on 60? Mile marker 34, just past the old phosphate plant. The one that shut down in 2011. I know it. Of course I knew it. That plant's tailings pond had been on my watch list for years. The karst underneath that whole area is Swiss cheese. Limestone riddled with voids from 50 years of phosphate mining. Pull enough rock out of the ground, something's got to collapse eventually. Jessica was sitting up when I came out of the bathroom, my work boots in hand. It's not even 5. Sinkhole emergency. Big one. They paying you overtime for this? She meant it as a joke, but it came out tired. We've had this argument before. Me taking calls at all hours. Me prioritizing the aquifer monitoring over sleep, over family dinners, over Lily's soccer games. I'm good at my job. That's not ego, that's just fact. When something goes wrong with Central Florida's drinking water, they call me because I know the system. Probably not. I kissed her forehead. Go back to sleep. Rick. She caught my wrist. Be careful. You remember that sinkhole in Seffner? The one that was a bedroom collapse. Different geology. This is out in cattle country. Still, I squeezed her hand. Jessica worries. This is what she does. 10th grade English teacher at Auburndale High. Spends her days trying to get teenagers to care about Shakespeare. Comes home and worries about me falling into holes in the ground. Valid concern, technically. Jeff Bush, the guy in Seffner, his bedroom floor just opened up under him in 2013. They never recovered the body. The sinkhole filled in before they could get to him. But that was residential, that was cover collapse over a void that had been growing for years. This was different. I was still thinking about it when I got in my truck. 2015 F-250, company vehicle, beat to hell. Coffee mug in the holder from 3 days ago. Dunkin' Donuts still had some in it. Cold. I drank it anyway. The phosphate readings. That's what kept nagging at me. We'd pulled samples from monitoring wells near that old plant site 6 weeks ago, and the phosphate concentrations were up 40%. No rain to explain dilution changes. No known discharge events. Tommy said the fog was green. State Road 60 was empty this time of morning. Too early for the commuters heading to Tampa. Too late for the overnight truckers. I passed the Flying J station where I usually got breakfast, past the First Baptist Church with its sign still reading Summer Revival July 14th to 16th. Even though it was August now, past 3 strip malls and the Tractor Supply where Jessica and I bought fencing for the backyard last year. The old phosphate plant sat back from the road, behind a chain link fence that hadn't been maintained since the bankruptcy. Mosaic Corporation had owned it, pulled millions of tons of phosphate rock out of the ground for fertilizer production, left behind settling ponds and tailings and a landscape that looked like the moon. I'd been inside the fence once, 5 years ago, checking groundwater monitoring wells that the EPA required them to maintain even after shutdown. The wells showed contamination. Always did. Phosphate, sulfate, radium-226. Nothing over the limits, but right up against them. The aquifer underneath that plant had been compromised for decades. We just managed it, monitored it, kept the contaminated water contained in the upper aquifer layer, away from the Floridan aquifer below where the county pulled drinking water. I saw the emergency lights before I saw the hole. Fire trucks, sheriff's cruisers, Tommy's county truck with the water management logo. More lights than I expected for a sinkhole. More people. Tommy was standing by his truck, talking to a deputy. He turned when he heard my F-250's diesel engine. "Rick, good. Look at this thing." The sinkhole was where the fence met the eastern edge of the plant property. The chain link had collapsed into it, posts and all, and yes, fog was rising out of it. Thick, luminous, catching the emergency lights and reflecting them back green. Not natural fog, not water vapor condensing. "What is that?" I asked. "Was hoping you'd tell me." Tommy's usually calm. 30 years at water management. Seen every kind of environmental disaster Florida can throw at you. But his voice had an edge. It opened up around 3:30. Deputy Lamont was doing his patrol, heard the ground go. Said it sounded like, "What did you say, Lamont?" "Thunder." The deputy nodded. "Underground thunder." Then this fog started coming up. Gets thicker every hour. I walked closer. The sinkhole was roughly circular, maybe 200 feet across like Tommy said. Edges ragged where the limestone had fractured. The fog. I'm calling it fog, but it wasn't, it was something else. Rose in slow pulses. Like breathing. Like the ground was exhaling. "We need to set up a perimeter," I said. "Get air quality monitoring out here. That could be hydrogen sulfide. Could be." "Already did." Tommy pointed to a deputy stringing crime scene tape. "Called DEP, they're sending a hazmat team from Tampa. Should be here by 7. I knelt at the edge. "Careful. You don't trust the ground near a fresh sinkhole. The visible collapse is just the start. The void underneath could extend 50 feet in any direction." But I needed to see. The fog glowed. Not reflected light. Actual bioluminescence like the algae blooms you sometimes see in the Gulf, like the foxfire fungus growing on dead palmetto logs. But this was coming from inside the earth. "Rick, get back from there." Tommy's hand on my shoulder. "The monitoring wells. The ones inside the plant property." I stood up too fast, head rush. "When did DP last sample them?" "I don't know. 6 months? Year. We need to check them. Now, before hazmat gets here." "Rick." "Tommy, I pulled samples from well 7 in June. Phosphate up 40%. No reason for it. And now this opens up right next to the plant's old settling pond." He got it then. I saw it on his face. "You think the pond's draining into this?" "I think something's draining. And if it's connecting to the aquifer." My phone rang. "Jessica." I almost didn't answer, but, "Rick, turn on the news." "Jess." "I'm at the site, I can't." Another sinkhole opened. In Lakeland. They're saying 3 people fell in. I looked at Tommy. His phone was ringing now too. Then the deputy's radio squawked. Dispatch voice urgent. "All units. Second sinkhole reported. Lakeland city limits. Lake Parker Avenue." The fog pulsed. Brighter. I could see it reflecting off the underbelly of the low clouds, turning the sky that sick green color. "Rick." Jessica's voice in my ear. "They're saying it's glowing. They're saying the same fog. Lock the doors. Don't let Lily leave the house." "What?" "Rick, what's?" "Just do it. I'll call you back." I hung up. Tommy was staring at his phone. For more sinkholes. Winter Haven, Bartow, Haines City. All within the last hour. That's not possible. But I was already thinking about the geology, about the phosphate mining region, about how the entire central ridge of Florida sits on limestone riddled with voids from decades of extraction, about how the aquifer connects everything, water flowing through underground channels we've mapped and channels we haven't, about how Lily's school pulled their water from well station 6, right in the middle of this contamination zone. The fog kept rising, and in the spotlights I could see something moving down there, in the hole, something that wasn't fog, something glowing. By 6 a.m., there were 19 sinkholes across 5 counties. By 7, the National Guard was setting up roadblocks on I-4. By 8, the CDC was on a conference call with every water management district in Central Florida, and I was the one giving them the bad news. The Floridan aquifer is the primary drinking water source for over 10 million people, I said into Tommy's speakerphone. We were in his truck, doors closed, watching hazmat suits swarm the original sinkhole. It's not like a lake or a river. It's limestone, porous, full of caves and channels we've only partially mapped. Water flows through it at varying rates depending on geology. If something's contaminating it at the source, Mr. Holloway, a woman's voice, clipped. Dr. Patricia Vance, CDC outbreak response. We're seeing reports of individuals exhibiting unusual symptoms near the Lakeland sinkhole. Can you speak to potential toxic exposure from the groundwater? What kind of symptoms? Phosphorescence, skin luminescence. The subjects were homeless individuals living in a tent encampment near Lake Parker. First responders found them unresponsive but mobile, described as walking but not conscious. Local PD has them in isolation. Tommy and I looked at each other. That's not groundwater toxicity, I said. I don't know what that is. We need water samples from the aquifer. Multiple locations. Can you? Already pulled them. I had the cooler in my truck bed, 6 samples from monitoring wells within a 10-mile radius of the original sinkhole. Sending them to the state lab in Tampa, but I can tell you right now they're contaminated. Phosphate off the charts. Something else too, some kind of biological. Biological. The water glows. In the sample bottles. I've never seen that. Silence on the call. Then, Mr. Holloway, we're declaring a state of emergency. Effective immediately, all well water in Polk, Hillsborough, and Osceola counties is under quarantine. No consumption, no bathing, no irrigation. I stopped, thought about the scale. That's agricultural suicide. The citrus groves, the cattle ranches. Non-negotiable. We'll coordinate with FEMA for bottled water distribution. I need you to identify which municipal systems are drawing from potentially affected aquifer sections. I pulled up the map on my tablet. The one I'd been updating for 16 years, every well station color-coded by depth, by flow rate, by aquifer connection. Most of them, Auburndale, Bartow, Winter Haven, Lakeland, they all pull from the upper Floridan. If this contamination is spreading through the karst channels, how fast could it spread? Depends on flow rates. In the rainy season, water moves faster. But we're in August, dry season, so days? A week? I was guessing. Nobody really knows how fast contamination spreads through an aquifer this size. We model it, we estimate, but the geology's too complex. Give me best case and worst case. Best case? The contamination stays localized to the phosphate mining region, doesn't reach the major well fields. We shut down affected wells, truck in clean water until we can filter the aquifer. Month, maybe 2. Worst case. I looked at the map, at the blue lines showing aquifer flow direction, all of them moving southwest toward the well fields that serve Tampa, St. Petersburg, the entire Gulf Coast corridor. Worst case, we lose drinking water for 3 million people and it takes years to remediate. More silence. Then, begin well shutdown protocols. Coordinate with local utilities. We'll have National Guard support for water distribution by this afternoon. The call ended. Tommy was staring at the hazmat team. They'd set up a tent, bright yellow, near the sinkhole edge. 2 of them were suiting up in level A gear, full encapsulation, self-contained breathing apparatus. The kind of suit you wear when you're not sure if the air will kill you. Rick. Tommy's voice was quiet. The homeless people in Lakeland. The ones walking around glowing. I heard. That's not chemical exposure. Chemicals don't make you glow and keep walking. I knew what he was getting at. Didn't want to say it. We need to check the other sinkholes. See if anyone else fell in. My phone rang. Jessica again. Rick, they shut down Lily's school. Emergency closure. They're saying something about the water. Good. Keep her home. Use bottled water only. Don't even brush teeth with tap water. What's happening? I don't know yet. But until I do, bottled water only. You understand? Only bottled. You're scaring me. Good. Be scared. Be careful. I hung up before she could ask more questions I couldn't answer. Tommy was on his radio, coordinating with the other counties. I watched the hazmat team descend into the sinkhole on ropes, spotlights cutting through the green fog. They had air quality monitors, sample collection gear, cameras. Professional. Thorough. They came up 8 minutes later. Fast. Too fast. One of them was stumbling, the others helping him to the deck and tent. I couldn't hear what they were saying through the suits, but their body language was wrong. I got out of the truck. Tommy grabbed my arm. Rick, we're supposed to stay back. I need to know what they found. The hazmat team supervisor was Dr. Raymond Diggs, Florida DEP, been doing environmental response for 20 years. I'd worked with him on the petroleum spill in 2018, the fertilizer plant accident in 2020. Good guy, knew his stuff. He came out of the deck and tent without his helmet, face pale. Rick, you shouldn't be here. What did you find? We need to expand the exclusion zone. 1/2 mile minimum. Raymond, what did you? There are bodies down there, in the fog, moving. I heard the words, processed them individually, couldn't make them make sense together. Moving, glowing, covered in this, it's not mist, Rick. It's spores or particulates or something alive. It's coating everything. And the bodies, they're not dead. They're not alive. They're just moving. That's not. I stopped, because what was I going to say? That's not possible? I just seen water glow in sample bottles. I just heard about homeless people walking around luminescent. How many bodies? 3, maybe more deeper down. The fog's too thick. He pulled off his gloves, threw them in a hazmat bag. One of them tried to grab Mitchell, through the suit. We got him out, but a scream from inside the deck and tent. Not pain, panic, people shouting. Raymond ran. I ran. Tommy was yelling at me to stay back, but I didn't. Inside the tent, Mitchell, the guy who'd stumbled coming up, was on the ground. His suit was off, they'd gotten him through Deccan protocol, he should have been fine. But his arm, his left arm from the elbow down was glowing. Bright green, bioluminescent, the skin turning translucent. And underneath, the bones were visible, glowing brighter than the flesh. Get him in the ambulance. Raymond was already on his radio. Code black. We need isolation transport. Mitchell's eyes opened. They glowed too. Solid green, no pupils, no iris. Just light. He sat up. Smooth. Wrong. Nobody moves like that, not with their arm dissolving into phosphorescent tissue. Mitchell. Raymond's voice cracked. Can you hear me? Mitchell's head turned toward the sound, tracking it. But his face, his expression, nothing there. Nobody home. He stood up. That's when I saw his arm wasn't dissolving. It was changing. The tissue was breaking down, yes, but it was reconstituting into something else. Something that glowed and moved and grew. Out. Raymond was pushing everyone toward the tent exit. Everyone out now. Mitchell took a step, then another, walking, smooth, purposeful, toward Raymond. I grabbed Raymond's shoulder, pulled him back. We got through the tent flap. Tommy was there, helping, and we ran. All of us, professionals, trained responders, ran like hell. Behind us, through the yellow plastic of the tent, I could see Mitchell's glowing form, standing, watching, not following, just standing there, in a decontamination tent on State Road 60 at 8:17 a.m. on a Tuesday, glowing green while his body transformed into something that shouldn't exist. Tommy got on his radio. All units, this is Breckenridge, we have a biological hazard at the primary site. Fall back to secondary perimeter. Repeat, fall back. My phone rang again. Different number. Sheriff's dispatch. I answered on speaker. Mr. Holloway? This is Deputy Clemens, Lakeland PD. The individuals from the Lake Parker site, they've breached containment. We had them in the community center gym and they just walked through the doors. Bent the metal. They're heading south on Main Street and we can't. We're not authorized to use lethal force on. How many? Started with 6. Now there's 14. They're everyone they touch, everyone who gets close. It spreads. I looked at Tommy. At Raymond, at the hazmat tent where Mitchell stood glowing. The aquifer, I said. It's not just contaminated. It's infected. And now it's in the water supply. Tommy's radio crackled. Another report. Another sinkhole. This one in Auburndale, right next to the elementary school. Lily's school. Rick, Tommy started. I was already running for my truck. The sinkhole at Auburndale Elementary opened directly under the playground. I got there at 9:23 a.m. I know because I checked my phone 12 times during the drive, kept trying to call Jessica, kept getting voicemail. The school had evacuated. Kids streaming into the parking lot, teachers doing head counts, parents arriving in waves of panic. I found Jessica by the front office. She had Lily. Thank God she had Lily. Rick, Jessica grabbed me, and I held them both. Lily was crying, 10 years old and trying to be brave, her soccer uniform dirty from where she'd fallen running. You're okay. You're both okay. The ground just opened, right by the swings. Mr. Patterson tried to. Jessica's voice broke. He was helping kids get away and he fell in. Bruce Patterson, taught 5th grade for 15 years, coached Little League, drove a Honda Civic with a Gators bumper sticker, had 2 kids of his own at the middle school. Did anyone else fall? 2 kids, Kevin Ortiz and, she was shaking, and Emma Kowalski. I knew her. Bright kid, always asked questions about how things worked. Her dad owned the auto shop where I got my truck serviced. Rick, there's fog coming out. Green fog. What is that? I could see it from here, rising from the playground like steam off a swamp. The glow visible even in daylight. Jessica, listen to me. Get Lily in the car. Drive to your sister's in Orlando. Right now. What? No, I need to. Orlando's outside the contamination zone. The aquifer flow doesn't reach that far. You'll be safe there. Contamination? Rick, what? The drinking water. It's infected with something. Everyone who gets exposed. I stopped. Lily was listening, her eyes wide. Just trust me. Please. Drive to Orlando. Don't stop. Don't use tap water anywhere in Polk County. Tommy's truck pulled up, radio squawking. He leaned out. Rick, we've got a problem. A big one. Jessica, go. Now. I kissed them both, pushed them toward our Honda. Watched Jessica strap Lily in, watched them pull out of the parking lot. Watched until I couldn't see them anymore. Then I got in Tommy's truck. The well field at Lake Gibson, Tommy said, already driving. It supplies 60,000 people. Bardo, parts of Lakeland. They pulled water quality samples this morning and, Rick, the glow's already in the distribution system. They shut it down 20 minutes ago, but that water's already in people's homes, in their pipes. They're telling everyone to avoid tap water, but nobody follows those alerts until it's too late. I knew the statistics. Water contamination warnings. People ignore them until they see proof, until their neighbors start getting sick. How long was the contaminated water in the system? Since midnight, maybe earlier. 9 hours of people brushing teeth, making coffee, cooking breakfast. 9 hours, 60,000 people. Even if only 10% use tap water. My phone buzzed. Email alert from the state lab in Tampa. The samples I'd sent. Analysis complete. I opened it. Read the summary. Read it again because it couldn't be right. Tommy. My voice didn't sound like mine. Pull over. What? Pull over. Now. He did. Side of the road, near the empty Stuckey's that closed last year. I showed him my phone. The water samples contained a previously unknown organism. Bioluminescent. Halophilic. Thriving in high-phosphate environments. The lab classified it as similar to Vibrio harveyi, the bacteria that makes seawater glow, but orders of magnitude more aggressive. It didn't just colonize organic tissue, consumed it, broke it down, repurposed it, and according to the lab, it reproduced exponentially in human tissue. One infection could produce millions of organisms in hours, spread through fluid contact, blood, saliva, water. The lab recommended immediate quarantine and military-grade containment protocols. They'd sent this email 40 minutes ago to every emergency response agency in Florida, to the CDC, to FEMA. They knew, I said. The CDC. Dr. Vance. She knew what this was before we even pulled samples. Tommy was reading over my shoulder. How could she know? Because this didn't just happen. You don't get a novel organism evolving overnight in groundwater. This took time. Development. Someone was studying this. I thought about the phosphate plant, about the monitoring wells that showed increasing contamination, about how the EPA required regular testing but those results went to the company first, then to regulators, about how Mosaic Corporation declared bankruptcy in 2011, right after abandoning the plant. The settling ponds. I was thinking out loud now. Phosphate mining uses sulfuric acid to break down the rock, produces radioactive waste, phosphogypsum, heavy metals. All of it gets pumped into settling ponds to evaporate. But what if someone was using those ponds for something else? Biological research, bioweapon development. Rick, that's conspiracy theory stuff. Then why did the CDC already have containment protocols ready? Why'd the National Guard deploy so fast? This wasn't a response to an emerging threat. This was a response to a known threat that escaped. Tommy's radio crackled. Sheriff's dispatch, voice urgent. All units, mass casualty event at Lakeland Regional Medical Center. Infected individuals have entered the ER. Hospital is requesting immediate evacuation assistance. Another call came through, then another. Reports flooding in from across the region. The infected, that's what they were calling them now, not patients, not victims, infected, were congregating, moving together, spreading the organism through contact. And everywhere they went, the water glowed. Storm drains, canals, retention ponds. The organism was seeding itself into every water source, using human hosts as vectors. My phone rang. Jessica. Rick, we're stuck. I-4 is blocked. National Guard won't let us through. They're saying Orlando's under quarantine too. They're saying the infection spread faster than. Where are you? Exit 44. There's thousands of cars. People are abandoning them, walking. Rick. Lily's asking for water and I only brought 2 bottles. Don't give her tap water. Do you hear me? Only bottled. I know, but she's thirsty and it's hot and, Rick, there's something wrong with the people walking past. Their skin. Lock the doors. Stay in the car. Rick, I'm coming. Stay there. I'm coming. I hung up, looked at Tommy. Exit 44. I-4. That's 15 miles. Rick, we've got responsibilities here. The wellfield shutdowns, the coordination with. My family's out there. So's mine. So's everyone's. But if we don't manage this contamination, if we don't coordinate the emergency response. Tommy, the CDC knew. They knew and they let this spread. They're not trying to contain it, they're studying it. Using us as test subjects. You don't know that. Then why aren't they evacuating everyone? Why are they setting up quarantine lines, trapping people inside the contamination zone? His radio, water management, this is FEMA command. We need technical assessment on the Saddle Creek wellfield. Can you? Rick. Tommy's voice was quiet. We're the only ones who understand the aquifer system, the flow rates, the contamination spread patterns. If we abandon our posts, if we stay, we're helping them contain an experiment, not save lives. You don't know that, but I did. I knew it the way I knew the aquifer, the way I knew the geology. The CDC had protocols ready because this wasn't an accident. The National Guard had deployed too fast with too much coordination. The quarantine lines were too perfect, too strategic. Someone had planned this. Someone had weaponized the groundwater. And now they were letting it run its course. I'm going to get my family, I said. You coming? Tommy looked at his radio, at the map of the wellfield system, at 40 years of service to this county, to this job. Yeah, he said. I'm coming. We made it 3 miles before we hit the roadblock. National Guard, concrete barriers. A captain with hard eyes told us the quarantine was absolute. No one in, no one out. My wife and daughter are at exit 44, I said. I'm just, sir, step back from the barrier. I'm with Polk County Water Management. We're essential personnel. As of 0900 hours, all civilian authority has been suspended. This is a federal emergency. Return to your vehicle. Behind him, I could see the interstate. Cars abandoned. People walking, some of them glowing. And I understood. They weren't trying to stop the infection from spreading out. They were making sure no one uninfected could leave. Tommy grabbed my arm. Rick, don't. But I was already calculating. The aquifer maps in my head. The groundwater flow patterns. The way the organism spread through water, through contact, through exposure. Jessica and Lily had maybe hours. Maybe less if they drank contaminated water. If someone infected came near them, I could save them, navigate the back roads, use my knowledge of the region. Get them out before the infection density made movement impossible. Or I could save the others. Tommy and I knew which well fields were still clean. Knew which communities could be evacuated to safe water sources. Knew how to map the contamination spread, how to predict where it would reach next, how to stay ahead of it. We could save thousands. Coordinate evacuation routes. Get information to communities before the infection reached them. But not both. The quarantine was expanding. The roads were clogging. In an hour, maybe two, movement would be impossible. I looked at the roadblock, at the guards with their weapons, at the contaminated zone spreading behind them. At my phone, Jessica's last message still on the screen. Lily's asking when you're coming. Tommy was watching me, waiting. I can't, I said. I can't coordinate the response. Can't save thousands of people I don't know. Not when. I stopped. Started again. 16 years I've protected this aquifer. Every day. Every emergency. Put the job first. Put the community first. And now it's your family. I'm choosing wrong. I know I'm choosing wrong. The emergency coordination, we're the only ones who know the aquifer system well enough to predict spread patterns, identify safe evacuation routes. Without us, people are going to die who didn't have to. Yeah, Tommy said quietly. They are. But I can't, Tommy. I can't let them die alone. Not when I could reach them. He looked at his radio. At the emergency channel, still squawking requests for water management technical support. 40 years of service. A lifetime of putting duty first. Then he turned the truck around. County Road 540, he said. Runs parallel to I-4. No military presence yet. We can reach exit 44 from there. Come in from the east. I stared at him. Tommy, you think I don't get it? Dorothy's at her sister's in Jacksonville. Safe. My kids are grown, living out of state. But your family. He was already driving, pulling away from the roadblock. The guards didn't stop us. We were leaving the contamination zone, not trying to enter. Your family's trapped in there, so we go get them. The emergency response. Someone else can coordinate it. Someone who doesn't have family to save. He glanced at me. We're doing this, so tell me the plan. How do we get to exit 44 without running that roadblock? County Road 540, I said again, thinking it through. Then what? Ram through the guard station. Don't have to. There's a drainage culvert under the interstate at mile marker 46. Big enough to walk through. Maintenance access. I inspected it 2 years ago. Rick, if we do this, if we abandon the emergency response, people are going to die who didn't have to. I know. Thousands of them. I know. He drove. Neither of us said anything else. What was there to say? I was choosing my family over my job, over my responsibility, over the communities that had trusted me for 16 years to keep their water safe. But they were already gone. The aquifer was compromised. The organism was spreading. The CDC or whoever was really running this wasn't trying to stop it. They were observing, documenting, using Central Florida as a testing ground. County Road 540 was empty. Everyone had fled to the interstate, following evacuation orders. We passed houses with doors hanging open, cars abandoned in driveways, a kid's bike laying in the middle of the road. I kept my eyes forward. Couldn't think about what those empty houses meant. My phone had no signal. Whatever the military was doing, they'd shut down cellular service. Couldn't have people coordinating, sharing information, organizing resistance. We reached the culvert at 10:47 a.m. 3-foot diameter concrete pipe runs under the interstate to handle storm runoff. I'd crawled through it during the inspection, checking for cracks, for subsidence. It was maybe 200 yards long, dark, but clear. Tommy parked the truck behind a stand of saw palmettos. We got out. I had my mag light, Tommy had his service flashlight. That was it. No protective gear, no weapons, just 2 water management techs trying to reach their families. The culvert entrance was choked with cattails. We pushed through. Inside, the concrete was slick with algae, water pooling in the low spots. Our footsteps echoed. Tommy went first, I followed. Crouching. The pipe was smaller than I remembered. Halfway through, I saw the glow. Faint. In the standing water. Green luminescence spreading through the algae. Tommy. He saw it too. It's in the drainage system. Keep moving. We moved. Faster. The water was ankle deep now, soaking through my work boots. Each step splashed. Each splash scattered the glowing organisms, sending phosphorescent ripples up the pipe walls. The exit was ahead. Daylight. I could see Tommy silhouetted against it, climbing out. Then he stopped. Rick, don't come up. I came up anyway. The interstate was packed. Cars everywhere, doors open, windshields shattered. And between them, the infected, hundreds of them, walking, shambling, skin glowing that sick green, tissue breaking down and reforming, faces slack and empty, moving south, all of them moving south, following some instinct, some directive the organism gave them. And the smell, God, the smell, rotting fish, algae bloom, that sulfur stink you get from fertilizer runoff. But underneath, sweetness, like overripe fruit, like meat starting to turn. Exit 44 is a mile south, Tommy whispered. Through that, I scanned the mass, looking for gaps, for patterns. The infected moved in clusters, 5, 10, 20 together. But there were spaces between the clusters. If we were careful, Rick, we can't. My family's down there. Look at them. Look how many. If even one of them touches us, then we don't let them touch us. I climbed out of the culvert. Tommy grabbed my ankle, but I shook him off. Stood up on the interstate in the middle of the largest outbreak of weaponized organisms in human history and started walking south. The infected didn't react at first, just kept moving in their clusters, drawn by whatever collective instinct the organism created. I stayed to the shoulder, weaving between abandoned cars, keeping distance. 20 feet, 15. Minimum safe separation. One of them turned toward me. Middle-aged woman, Publix uniform, name tag still pinned to her glowing chest. Barbara. Her face was gone. Not erased, transformed. The features still there but wrong. Tissue flowing like wax. Eyes just pools of luminescent fluid. She took a step toward me. I froze. Waited. She stopped. Turned away. Rejoined her cluster. They weren't hunting. Not tracking movement or sound. Just drawn to something. Some signal I couldn't perceive. Tommy caught up. They're heading for the sinkholes, he said quietly. Look, they're all moving toward high concentrations of the organism. He was right. The direction was southeast. Toward Lakeland. Toward the cluster of sinkholes where this had started. They're spreading it, using the infected as mobile incubators, spreading it to every water source, every human population center, and then drawing them back to the source to what? Deposit new organisms. Evolve? Combine? Rick, we need to move. Exit 44 was ahead. I could see the off-ramp, cars jammed bumper to bumper, and in the middle our Honda. Jessica's Honda Civic, tan, the roof rack we'd installed for camping trips. I ran. Didn't care about safe distance anymore. Dodged through the infected, between clusters, around reaching hands that moved too slow to catch me. Tommy was behind me, yelling something, but I couldn't hear over my heartbeat. The Honda. I reached it. Looked in the windows. Empty. No Jessica. No Lily. No water bottles. No sign they'd been here except Jessica's purse. On the passenger seat. She never left her purse behind. Never. I tried the door. Locked. I smashed the window with my mag light. Reached in. Grabbed the purse. Her phone was inside. Dead battery. Her wallet. Her keys. No. Her keys were in the ignition. She'd left in a hurry. Left everything. There was a note. Torn piece of paper wedged under the visor. Jessica's handwriting. Infected coming. Going to school 2 miles south. Eagle Lake Elementary doors locked. She'd left me a message. In case I came. In case I made it. 2 miles south. They'd abandoned the car when the infected got too close. Walked. Carrying Lily. Found shelter. Rick. Tommy's voice behind me. Wrong. Too tight. I turned. He was glowing. His left hand, where he'd grabbed an infected person's arm, pulling them away from me. I'd never even seen it happen. But the glow was spreading. Up his wrist. Into his forearm. The tissue already starting to break down. Tommy. It burns. God, Rick, it burns, but it's also showing me things. I can feel them. All of them. The infected. I can feel what they feel. There has to be a way to. There's no cure. You know that. The organism's too aggressive. Once it's in, it's in. His voice was calm. Wrong calm. The organism doing something to his brain chemistry, to his fear response. But Rick, I can feel where they are. Jessica and Lily. The organism's like a network. I can feel south. 2 miles. Eagle Lake Elementary. Your note's right. They're there. They're alive. Not infected. Not yet. But they're trapped. The infected are surrounding the building. Dozens of them. Trying to get in. You can feel them? Through the organism. Through the network. It's like I'm connected to every infected person within miles. I can sense concentrations of uninfected too. Warmth. Living tissue that hasn't transformed yet. There at the school. In the gym. I looked at him. At my supervisor. My friend. 40 years at water management. Wife named Dorothy. 3 grandkids. Liked deep-sea fishing. Complained about the heat. How long do you have? I don't know. Hours? Minutes? It's moving fast. Rick, you need to go. Get them out. There's a way through the drainage system. The school connects to the storm sewer. You know the system. You can navigate it. I can't leave you. You already did. Back at the roadblock. When you chose them over the response coordination. You chose them. So go. He was right. I'd made the choice already. But it didn't feel like a choice. Felt like murder. Tommy, go. Before I'm too far gone to hold myself back. Go now. I went. Left him standing there next to our Honda. His arm glowing bright enough to cast shadows. His skin breaking down into luminescent slurry that dripped and reformed and spread. I ran. South. 2 miles. Past infected. Past cars. Past everything. The elementary school was Eagle Lake Elementary. Built in 1987. I knew it because I'd done a presentation there once, teaching kids about the aquifer. Lily's age, 10 years old. The infected were everywhere, surrounding the building, not trying to break in, just standing there, swaying, waiting, like they knew the people inside would have to come out eventually. The storm drain access was on the east side, behind the dumpsters. I'd helped install monitoring equipment there 5 years ago. Grate secured with a padlock I could pick with my pocket knife. I'd done it before when I forgot the key. 2 minutes. I had the grate open, dropped down into the drainage pipe. 3 feet of standing water, glowing faintly. I waded through it, toward the school connection, toward where the building's plumbing tied into the storm system. The pipe branched, left to the gym, right to the cafeteria. I went left. I could hear voices. Above me, through the grate that vented into the gym floor. Jessica's voice, Lily's voice, other voices, families huddled together. Jessica! I kept it quiet. Jessica, it's Rick. Movement above. Footsteps. Rick, listen to me. There's a floor drain in the corner. Northeast corner. Remove the cover. I can get you out through the storm system. Rick, there's 20 people here. I can get you out. All of you. But you have to trust me. You have to move now. Sounds of activity. Someone prying up the drain cover. A face appeared in the opening. Jessica. Rick. I'm coming up. I climbed. Through the drain. Into the gym. 23 people. Families. Kids. They'd been here since morning. Hiding from the infected. Rationing water bottles. There's a way out, I said. Through the drainage system. It connects to a culvert a quarter-mile east. We can reach the county line before the infection spreads that far. How do you know it hasn't spread there already? A man. Dan Reeves worked at the Ford dealership. His son Tyler was on Lily's soccer team. I don't, but I know it's spreading from the sinkholes outward. The county line is 20 miles from the primary outbreak. We've got a chance. And if we stay here? I looked at the gym windows, at the infected outside, at the water fountains along the wall, unused because everyone knew better than to drink tap water. Then we wait until the organism contaminates this building's water supply, until someone gets desperate enough to drink, until we run out of bottled water and have no choice. Jessica was holding Lily. How long will that take? 2 days, maybe 3. And the military? The CDC? They're not coming. This is a containment operation, not a rescue. Silence. Then, how do we know you're not infected? Fair question. You don't. But I got here through contaminated water and I'm not glowing yet. So either I'm immune or the infection takes time. Either way, we've got hours. Maybe more. Dan looked at the others, making the choice for them. Alpha male instinct. Protecting his family. His community. We go. Everyone who wants to go through the drain. Now. 23 people. Through a floor drain. Into standing contaminated water. Wading through darkness. Following me because I knew the system, because I'd spent 16 years mapping every pipe, every connection, every outlet in this county. We made it to the culvert. Climbed out. The afternoon sun was brutal, blinding after the darkness. Everyone wet. Everyone contaminated. Everyone exposed. But alive. For now. County line is east, I said. Stay off the roads. Stay away from water sources. Move in pairs. If anyone starts glowing, I stopped. Couldn't finish. If anyone starts glowing, leave them behind. They understood. They nodded. They split into pairs, families, groups. Started moving. Jessica and Lily stayed with me. We walked east. Through drainage ditches. Through empty developments. Through the abandoned landscape of Central Florida. Behind us, I heard screaming. One of the groups. Someone had started glowing. I didn't look back. Couldn't. Just kept walking. At 4:17 p.m., we crossed the county line. No checkpoint. No military. Just a road sign. Osceola County. And on the other side, green glow. In the ditches. In the retention ponds. The organism had already spread this far. Faster than prediction. Faster than escape. Jessica saw it too. Rick. I know. Then where? I don't know. Lily was crying. 10 years old. Soaked in contaminated water. Watching her mother's hands start to glow. Faint, but visible. Jessica saw it. Looked at her hands. Looked at me. Rick. I grabbed her. Held her. Not yet. Takes time. Hours. We have time. But I was lying. She knew it. Lily knew it. I'd saved them from the school. Gotten them out of Polk County. And none of it mattered because the organism was everywhere. In the water, in the ground, in the air we breathed. We sat on the side of County Road 523. The three of us. Jessica's hands glowing brighter. My forearm starting to show the first traces of luminescence where I'd touched contaminated water. Lily looked at me. Daddy, am I going to turn into one of those things? I couldn't answer. Couldn't lie to her. Couldn't tell her the truth. So I just held them both. Watched the sunset. Watched the ditches glow brighter as darkness fell. Watched Jessica's skin start to break down. Tissue flowing and reforming. her face still there but transforming. She looked at me, her eyes still her eyes. Still Jessica. Rick, when I'm too far gone, you have to go. Take Lily. Keep her away from Jess. Promise me. But I couldn't promise. Because Lily was glowing too. Her small hands, her arms, the organism spreading faster in children. Faster metabolism, faster infection. I held them both while they transformed, while the organism consumed them, while they stopped being my wife and my daughter and became something else. And when they stood up, when their eyes went green and empty, when they turned and walked away toward the nearest sinkhole like all the others, I let them go, because there was nothing else I could do. I walked for 3 days after they left. East, then north, following back roads, staying away from water sources. The glow was everywhere, but I didn't transform. Kept waiting for it. Kept checking my arms, my hands, for the first signs of luminescence. Nothing happened. On the 3rd day, I reached a National Guard checkpoint on the containment perimeter. Real perimeter, not the fake evacuation lines they'd set up inside the zone. These guards had hazmat protocols, Geiger counters, blood testing equipment. They tested me, quarantined me for 48 hours, tested me again. I was clean, no active organism, just antibodies, immune. They brought in the CDC. Dr. Patricia Vance arrived with a full medical team, examined me, took samples, asked questions I couldn't answer. You were exposed for 4 hours to high-concentration contaminated water. Your wife and daughter transformed within hours of the same exposure. Why didn't you? I didn't know. Still don't. They kept me in quarantine for 2 weeks. Then they offered me a job. Observation post on the containment wall they were building. Monitoring the infected. Tracking spread patterns. Using my knowledge of the aquifer to predict contamination flow. I took it. What else was I going to do? Where else was I going to go? That was 6 months ago. The wall's finished now. Concrete and steel, 200 miles long, surrounding what used to be Central Florida. Nothing gets in. Nothing gets out. Not the infected. Not the organism. Not the glow that rises from every water source between Tampa and Orlando. I watched the infected from the observation tower. They're drawn to the wall now. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, standing there, swaying, glowing bright enough to see from 20 miles away on clear nights. Sometimes I think I see Jessica. Same height, same build, but her face is gone. They're all gone, dissolved and reformed so many times that there's nothing human left. Just tissue animated by the organism. Just vehicles for spreading the infection. I don't sleep. Haven't slept more than 2 hours at a time since the quarantine. Every time I close my eyes, I see Lily, 10 years old, asking me if she was going to turn into one of those things. And I couldn't tell her no, couldn't lie to her, just held her while it happened. The CDC interviews me every week. Dr. Patricia Vance. She never apologized, never explained why they had containment protocols ready before the outbreak. Never admitted they knew what was in those phosphate-settling ponds. She just asks questions, takes notes, documents the progression. You were exposed to contaminated water for approximately 4 hours, she says. Tuesday morning, same room as always, concrete walls, fluorescent lights. You waded through standing water in the drainage culvert. Direct contact with high concentrations of the organism. Yes. But you show no signs of infection, no luminescence, no tissue degradation. Blood tests show antibodies but no active organism. Yes. Do you have any theories about why you're immune? I don't answer. We've been through this 50 times. She knows I don't have theories. I just survived. 1 person out of 23 from that school. 1 person out of 3 million in the contamination zone. The only one who was directly exposed and didn't transform. Mr. Holloway, we need to understand your immunity. If we could isolate the mechanism, develop a treatment. There's no treatment. The organism consumes tissue faster than any antibody response. You know that. You designed it that way. She doesn't react, doesn't deny, just makes a note on her tablet. We're trying to help the infected. Find a way to reverse the transformation. No, you're not. You're studying them, watching how they evolve, documenting the outbreak patterns. This is still an experiment to you. Mr. Holloway, my wife taught English literature at Auburndale High. She had 130 students, made lesson plans every night, graded papers on the weekend, worried about her kids. Not just Lily, all of them, whether they were learning, whether they'd be okay. I understand. My daughter played center forward on her soccer team. Not great at it. She wanted to be, but she didn't have the aggression. Too nice. Passed when she should have shot. But she loved it anyway. Loved the team. Loved the uniforms. Dr. Vance stops typing. Looks at me. Tommy Breckenridge worked 40 years at water management. Knew every well field, every pump station, every monitoring well. Saved thousands of lives coordinating emergency responses to droughts, floods, contamination events. Died infected because he helped me reach my family. Mr. Holloway, survivor's guilt is, don't do that. Don't try to therapize this. I stand up. You want to know why I'm immune? I don't know. Maybe something in my genetics. Maybe I drank enough contaminated groundwater over 16 years that I built up resistance. Maybe I'm just lucky. Or unlucky. First honest thing she's ever said. I go back to my quarters. Barracks housing for the observation staff. We monitor the containment zone. Watch the infected. Track the organism's spread patterns. Make sure nothing breaches the wall. There are 40 of us. Guards, scientists, technicians. Some of us from the zone. Most of us brought in from outside. Nobody talks much. What's there to say? I check my phone. No service. They don't allow it. Don't want information leaking. Don't want the world knowing the infection's still evolving. Still spreading underground, through the aquifer, following the channels I spent 16 years mapping. The CDC says the contamination is contained. Says the wall is holding. Says the aquifer contamination is localized. They're lying. I can see it in the monitoring data. The organism's bioluminescence is showing up in wells outside the containment zone. Faint, but present. The karst channels are carrying it. Slowly, but inevitably. In 5 years, maybe 10, it'll reach the Gulf Coast aquifers. The drinking water for Tampa, St. Petersburg, Sarasota. 3 million more people. And I'm the only one who knows the geology well enough to predict the spread patterns. So I map it, every night, alone in my quarters, charting the underground flow, calculating the arrival times, identifying which well fields will be affected first. The CDC knows I'm doing this. They haven't stopped me because they want the data, want to watch it spread, want to document the next phase. Some nights I think about leaving, walking away. The observation tower isn't locked. The perimeter isn't guarded on the outside. I could just go. But go where? To warn people who won't believe me? To tell them their drinking water will glow green in 5 years and there's nothing they can do about it? To die knowing I abandoned the monitoring post, the data collection, the one thing I might still be useful for? I don't leave. I stay. I watch the wall. I watch the infected. I watch Jessica and Lily's glowing forms in the crowds, indistinguishable from all the others, and I document their movements. Dr. Vance says it's unhealthy, says I should accept they're gone, says I need closure. I don't respond to that either. They're not gone. They're right there, 200 yards away on the other side of the wall. Jessica's height, Lily's size, moving in the crowds, glowing. I watch them every shift, mark their movement patterns on the tracking grid. Dr. Vance says that's not them anymore. Says the organism consumed their neural tissue, their memories, their personalities. Says what's walking around is just animated tissue. She's probably right. The science supports it. Brain tissue breaks down first. Personality matrix destroyed. Just motor functions and basic stimulus response remaining. I watch them anyway. Mark the grid. File reports on their movement vectors. Sometimes people ask if I have regrets, if I do anything different. I don't answer. What's there to say? I chose them. Tommy and I abandoned the emergency response coordination. Thousands of people died without evacuation routes, without aquifer safety predictions, without technical support. Then Jessica and Lily died anyway, transformed in front of me 6 hours after I reached them. The math doesn't work any direction you calculate it. Choose duty. Family dies at exit 44. Choose family. Family dies at county line, plus thousands die without coordination. Both options end the same, just different body counts. Dr. Vance keeps asking about the immunity, wants to understand the mechanism, runs tests every week, blood draws, tissue samples, genetic sequencing. Your exposure duration was sufficient for infection. The organism concentration in the culvert water was 4 times the minimum infectious dose. Yet you show no active infection. Why? I tell her I don't know. She writes it down. Asks again next week. Same question. Same answer. 6 months of this. The monitoring data shows the organism spreading. Slow. Underground. Following the aquifer channels exactly the way I predicted. Well stations outside the containment zone showing trace amounts. Parts per billion now. Parts per million in 5 years. Infectious concentrations in 10. I map it every night. Chart the spread. Calculate arrival times for each well field. Tampa's Hillsborough River Facility, 2032. St. Petersburg's Cosmo-Odessa System, 2034. Sarasota's Verna System, 2037. The CDC files my reports. Doesn't evacuate anyone. Doesn't shut down the threatened well fields. Just documents the spread. Couldn't save my family. Couldn't save my community. Couldn't save the aquifer. I just survived. Immune by accident. Useful by default. Watching the glow spread. Documenting the end. The observation tower lights come on. Automatic. Sunset protocol. They illuminate the wall. The infected. The contamination zone stretching to the horizon. The observation tower lights come on. Automatic. Sunset protocol. They illuminate the wall. The infected. The contamination zone stretching to the horizon. 3 million people used to live there. The population records are in the database. Names, addresses, occupations. All of them in the zone when the quarantine locked down. All of them exposed within 48 hours. I knew some of them. Jessica taught with Amy Thornton at Auburndale High. Lily played soccer against Emma. Tommy had lunch every Tuesday with Bill Vasquez from the Lakeland Water District. They're all down there now, in the crowds, glowing, moving toward the sinkholes when the organism pulses. I write their names in my report sometimes, match the infected movement patterns to the address records, track where they used to live versus where they congregate now. The organism draws them to the highest concentration points. Old instinct or new programming, I don't know. Dr. Vance has theories. I just document the behavior. Dr. Vance says the immunity might be genetic, might be replicable, might save future populations when the organism spreads beyond containment. I hand her my latest spread projections, the aquifer maps with contamination timelines. She files them, doesn't share them with the affected municipalities, doesn't issue warnings. I asked her once why not. Why not evacuate Tampa before the organism reaches their well field? We need to observe the natural spread pattern, she said. Intervention would compromise the data. That was 3 months ago. I stopped asking questions after that. Just submit the reports. Watch the wall. Track the spread. Some nights I think about leaving. The observation tower isn't locked. The perimeter isn't guarded on the outside. I could walk away, but I don't. I stay at the tower, submit the reports, watch for Jessica and Lily in the crowds. Never find them, never stop looking. That's what's left. The observation, the documentation, the tracking grid with their last known positions marked. The reports Dr. Vance files without reading. And the memory, not philosophical, not meaningful, just the facts. Lily asked if she was going to turn into one of those things. Couldn't tell her no. I held them both while the organism transformed them. Watched their eyes go green and empty. Let them walk away because there was nothing else to do. 6 months ago. Feels like yesterday. Feels like always.